Well, still on the business front of sorts, and Craig Emerson's got his supermarket review out this morning that says that the big supermarket giants should not be broken up. Instead, they should be threatened with a big stick if they break a mandatory code of conduct. So let's get the coalition response to that now. Joining us is the Shadow Finance Minister Jane Hume. Jane, it's good to see you in person. Thanks for coming in today. So Craig Emerson so far, according to the AFR this morning, he's called the coalition approach to breaking up the supermarket chains as populist, lacks credibility, it would lead to store closures and job losses. What's your response to that?
Well, considering the coalition hasn't come out with a policy, I think that's a big call from Craig Emerson. Of course, this is an interim report that he has released, and let's be honest, he's released it to the media, not to the coalition, so we haven't been able to see it yet. We will go through that report very carefully and in great detail. We do know that prices at the supermarket are causing people a lot of pain in their hip pocket. Prices have already gone up by around 10% in the last 2 years alone. The price of bread has gone up by around 17.5%. The price of milk has gone up by around 16.5%. So we know that Australian consumers are feeling it in their hip pocket. Is this the right response? Well, we'll wait and see to read the report and go through it in great detail. However, what I would say is you can question how genuine the government is on this issue if at the same time as they're trying to beat up the supermarkets, they're also levying a tax on farmers through a biosecurity levy, which of course gets immediately passed on through higher prices of groceries. If they're levying a tax on truckies through diesel fuel charges, which also get directly passed on to the price of groceries, and if they're not getting the prices of energy under control, and they're inflicting enormous changes to the industrial relations system, which locks up these big supermarket companies in a lot of red tape with their employment contracts. All of these things are feeding higher prices. There isn't just one solution. There are plenty of solutions. And quite frankly, I'd question the government's sincerity when they say they want to get supermarket prices down if they're doing all these other things.
All right, what's your solution?
Well, we will come back to you with at the moment.
So you don't have one yet?
No, that's not at all what I say. The first thing we would do is get inflation down. Right? I mean, quite frankly, the way to get prices down is to get inflation down, get inflation under control. This government has shown no real appetite to get inflation under control because its spending is still out of control. $209 billion just in the last 2 years alone, additional spending. Of course, this means that inflation stays higher for longer, interest rates stay higher for longer, and people are doing it tough. Surely that has got to be the first thing. In the meantime, though, we will look at supermarket powers and we will look at whether they are being fair on farmers and passing on price reductions to consumers, and we'll look at that through a different lens.
So, Craig Emerson, I mean, this is back on the idea of divesting the supermarket giants. He basically says that if the giants are forced to sell, so say you've got a Woolworths and then they've got to sell a Metro, for example. Then his concern is that Metro could just be picked up by another giant. So then it becomes counterproductive and then leads to greater market concentration. Do you share that view at all?
Well, there is always concern with divestiture powers whether they will actually decrease prices. In the same way, though, you would also
you're looking at that,
you would also consider that whether enormous fines, the way that Craig Emerson is considering, whether they will have the effect of decreasing prices. Certainly, we are looking at a way to make sure that supermarkets pass on those lower prices from the farm gate onto consumers, and perhaps that might be part of the mix. But the most important thing here is that we have a competitive supermarket industry that is also has lower input costs, whether it be through industrial relations, whether it be through energy prices, whether it be through the prices that farmers have to charge for their produce. And quite frankly, if you're not getting those things right, well, of course, the supermarkets have to pass on higher prices.
Do you